G'day guys, welcome to my Spice feature video. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about NRL Round 12 recap for 2020 guys. Let's get started. So to start off with that first match of that game, we see the Dragons going up against the Rabbitohs. Now this game was a pretty tight match. A lot of things happened in that match, which was pretty cool to see how the atmosphere was. But the Rabbitohs really stood hard and played with their effort. But I really do think that the Dragons, though, when they were trying to kick it and then Corey Norman was trying to tackle them and get the ball, they sprint down the line, and then obviously Matt Duffy was coming down the sideline, and then obviously when the Corey Norman passed the ball to Matt Duffy, he obviously scored. Well done from him anyway. But not a lot of effort to see. The Dragons didn't get up to this scoreline, but the Rabbitohs, though, they really stood hard and played with their fight. They just had a lot of credit in that game, which I thought it was going to be a tight match. And obviously did, because the Rabbitohs are a really good team, but sometimes they just don't execute very well. But luckily they were due for a win, and they obviously won that game. 32 points to 24 that scoreline was, and I cannot believe this game was absolutely amazing. But let's have a look at the Dragons' tries anyway. So what we have here is Matt Duffy scored 2 tries, Ewan Aiken scored 1, Tyson Frizzell and Michaeli Ravalawa. Let's have a look at the Rabbitohs tries. So what we have here is Cody Walker, Alex Johnston scored 3 tries. Absolutely incredible by him. Well done from you. And Latrell Mitchell scored 1 also too, which made an absolute effort by this club, the Rabbitohs anyway. And my player of the game certainly went to number 1 from the Dragons, Matt Duffy. He is having a blinder every single time he plays the game. When he gets the ball, he certainly is dangerous, and he certainly is very, very fast when he sprints down the sideline or sprints down the left or right or down the middle. But he certainly is a really good player to stand out for the Dragons anyway. The next game of that match, we see the West Tigers going up against the Warriors. Now, this game certainly was a very close match. I thought to myself that the Warriors were going to lose because they are really struggling a little bit, but they're just not making an effort sometimes. But in this game, they certainly did. They were trying their best, and they certainly won by 6 points anyway. It was 26 points to 20 the scoreline, and I cannot believe it that I just really stood it hard in that game. But I did tip the West Tigers though, but I forgot what points that I did by tips, but I certainly did tip the West Tigers though by that scoreline. But for the West Tigers though, let's have a look at a try. So what we have here is Moses Mbai, David Northluma, Sam McIntyre and Tommy Talau. Tommy Talau is a really good player that stand out for that game. But let's have a look at the Warriors' tries anyway. So what we have here is Carl Lawton and Peter Hiku scored 2 tries, and Tohu Harris obviously scored 1. And my player of the game certainly just went to this player. I think it was number 3 or number 4. Went to from the Warriors. Peter Hiku is having an absolute blinder of a game. Every single time I see him, he is just a really good player that just stands out for their club. And really, it's just a matter of time that they just execute very well, and they obviously did. They worked themselves very hard, and I thought to myself that they are a really good team to stand out for that match, and they certainly did. They hold the West Tigers on, and I just think they are a really good team anyway to basically win by 6 points. But certainly, though, for the coach of the Warriors, they were just very happy for that match. But Michael Maguire certainly wasn't happy in that game. But unlucky for the West Tigers, though, to not win for that match. But really good win by the Warriors, 26 points to 20. Anyway, but yeah, my player of the game was certainly went to Peter Hiku anyway. The next game of that match, we see the Broncos going up against the Sharks. Now, this game is certainly a really good match, tied up game it was, but Jake Turpin, Tony Staggs, and Darius Boyd played a really good matchup. But I don't think Jake Turpin wasn't in that game that played up against the Sharks. But without Chad Townsend, the Sharks really stood hard and they were absolutely incredible. Well done to you guys that just certainly played with their strength and played with their spirit anyway. But it was 36 points to 26 in that game and certainly was a very close matchup in that game. But when I had a look at it, Broncos played a really good game in that match. But the first half in that match was certainly for the Broncos that played a really good game of football. But in the second half, they were played absolutely sloppy and then Sharks stood hard and then recovered. That means they obviously took over and won that game for sure. And they obviously did. So let's have a look at the Broncos tries anyway. So what we have here is Tony Staggs scored 2 tries. Absolutely incredible player by him. Reece Kennedy scored 1 and Rich Kenner scored 2 tries. Absolutely incredible by him anyway. But let's have a look at the Sharks tries anyway. So what we have here is Ronaldo Mulatalo, Sia Safa, Talakai, Jackson Ferris, Sione Katoa, Connor Tracy, and Braden Hammond-Ueli. Those players there, Jackson Ferris was on his debut, and obviously a really good game by him that scored a try to make his first grade debut for their club anyway. But this game was certainly a really good matchup though, but I'm just going to say that my player of the game in that match that stood out for that game was number 5 from the Cronulla Sharks, Ronaldo Mulatalo anyway. The next game of that match, we see the Roosters going up against the Titans. Now, this game certainly was a pretty average match, but really I thought to myself that the Roosters were going to put so many points on up against the Titans. But it was very sloppy by the Roosters that didn't play a really good game. But it was an 18 points to 12 scoreline, average game of football, which I thought to myself that the Titans were going to win this game. But they didn't, but they lacked inconsistently. But let's have a look at the Roosters tries anyway. So what we have here is Mitchell Orbison and Joseph Manu. Let's have a look at the Titans tries anyway. So what we have here is Anthony Don and Philip Sammy, which I thought to myself that Philip Sammy is a really good player that absolutely kills it out there every single time he plays his match. And also Anthony Don. Anthony Don is a real good player also too. So is Dale Copley. He's an absolute great player for the Titans. But certainly was Joseph Manu. But he didn't really play a really good matchup because every time he played that game, he had a lot of knock-ons, which I thought to myself that he was going to score like every single try. But then he obviously loses the ball, and then Titans got the ball. But anyway, Joseph Manu is a really good player anyway, but I just have to say, Joseph Manu is an absolute top-notch player that stands out for the club. But my player of the game certainly went to number 4 for the Roosters, like I just mentioned before, Joseph Manu for that player of the game. Absolutely stands out every single match he plays up against a different club, but I just have to say, he's an absolute top-notch player that stands out for every single game that he plays for anyway. The next game of this match, we see the Cowboys going up against the Raiders. Now, this game was certainly a really good matchup, but the Raiders, though, really aiming up hard, and I just think that the Raiders were absolutely a top-notch football team that just really stood out hard in this game for sure, up against the Cowboys. But what I have to say is, the Cowboys, though, are really not an average team. Every single time, like, they play up against different clubs, they just lose every single time they play. But sometimes they do win, but they don't make an effort. I just have to say, from the Cowboys, though, they are alright team, but they're just not a top 8 team. Because every single time I see them play and how they think they're gonna score like in win games, I just don't see them a top 8 team at all. But for the Raiders though, certainly a top 8 team for them, because every single time they play, I just think they are a really top team that just makes an effort every single time they play football. But it was a 14 points to 12 scoreline, and they obviously won by 2 points from the Raiders. But let's have a look at the Cowboys tries anyway. So what we have here is Reece Robson and Jason Taumalolo. Jason Taumalolo absolutely played a wonderful match anyway. But let's have a look at the Raiders tries anyway. So what we have here is George Williams and Curtis Scott. George Williams absolutely had a great match. That's certainly benefit of the doubt in that game. And I just think he was an credit for that team that just absolutely stood out hard in that game. And I just think for that match, absolutely stood out in that game for sure. But my player of the game went to George Williams in that match. Just certainly outstanding game for sure, and I just think he is a really good player anyway. The next game of that match, we see the Sea Eagles going up against the Panthers. Now, this game was absolutely a really good match by the Panthers. I thought to myself that Manly were going to absolutely win this game. But Charlie Staines in that match absolutely killed it out there with so many tries in that game. But Manly were just lacking effort to see what the Panthers were going to do. I just have to see that Manly are not a top 8 team. Only because if they keep losing every single time they play up against like different clubs, I just don't see them in a top 8 team for sure. But it was certainly 42 points to 12 in that match, and I just think that Manly was certainly lacking inconsistent, and they played absolutely terrible. But for the Panthers though, certainly they played a really good matchup. But I just have to say, absolutely splendid match by the Panthers, and I just have to say credit to you guys that played a really good game anyway. But let's have a look at the Manly tries anyway. So what we have here is Jake Trbojevic and George Taufua. Let's have a look at the Panthers tries anyway. So what we have here is Charlie Staines scored 2 tries. I think it was 4 or 2. I'm not too sure about that. Isaiah Yeo, Stephen Crichton, Nathan Cleary, Brent Naden, and Apisai Coruscant. Brent Naden, every single time I see him playing, absolutely a great effort and an alright player that stands out every single time he plays a game of football. But my player of the game went to this player that's obviously plays every single time and scores a try every single game. Charlie Staines, my player of the game, absolutely a great player, and I just think he deserves to play more and more football anyway. The next game of this match, we see the Bulldogs going up against my Parramatta Eels. Now, this game was certainly a really top-notch match. Entertain House went to that game anyway, so go check him out anyway. He's just an alright YouTuber, and he's just a top-notch YouTuber anyway. So I just have to say, credit to the Bulldogs, but they are a good team. But saying that, they're not a top 8 team anyway. But I have to say from the Eels, they are a really good team. But there is a but in this, because in the second half in that game, they played a really shit game that led for the Bulldogs 3 tries in a row. But I have to say that this game was certainly a tight-up match, which I thought to myself that the Bulldogs were going to win this game. But then they hold them off by 2 points, and they were really egging me on in that match. But let's have a look at the Bulldogs tries anyway. So what we have here is Raymond Fatala-Mariner, Jake Averillo, and Marcelo Montoya. Jake Averillo, every single time I see him, he is absolutely a top-notch player anyway. So is Marcelo Montoya, but he doesn't really play a really good effort of football, but he is just an alright player anyway. But let's have a look at the Eels tries anyway. So what we have here is Mitchell Moses. Mitchell Moses is a really good player that stands out for our club anyway. And also Clint Gutterson scored 2 tries anyway. So what we like, I just have to say, from Clint Gutterson, he is just a really good player that stands out for our club. And I just have to say, credit to you that just absolutely killed it out there. And I just think, to stand out in that match, well done from you. My player of the game was number 1 from the Parramatta Eels, Clint Gutterson anyway. The next game of that match, and certainly the last but certainly not least, we see the Storm going up against the Newcastle Knights. That game was certainly a really top-notch match, but losing Connor Watson and Andrew McCulloch was certainly a big loss for the Newcastle Knights club. But they were playing a really good effort, and they were trying to win and putting pressure on the Melbourne Storm. But Melbourne Storm are just killing it every single time they play football, and they are a really first-class football team anyway from the Storm. And I have to say, Bradman Best, every single time he plays, he is just a really good footballer that just stands out for the club. And for Ryan Papenhuyzen, he's absolutely a speed freaker. And Suliasi Vunivalu scored a really good try also too. But speaking of that, let's have a look at the Storm tries anyway. So what we have here is Suliasi Vunivalu, Cameron Smith, Ryan Papenhuyzen, and Tino Fasama Alui. I think it's Fasino Malaawi. That's it, yeah. Fasala Malaawi. That's right. And let's have a look at Knights tries anyway. So what we have here is Brandon Best, Aiden Guerra, and Inari Tualala. But my player of the game went to number 1 from the Melbourne Storm, Ryan Papenhuyzen. He is absolutely having a top-notch game, and I just think for their club, really making an effort. And I had to say, in that game, was really a top-notch effort that really stand out for their club. And I think Ryan Papenhuyzen is a big effort for their club, and certainly for the player. And I just have to say credit to the Melbourne Storm for making a really good effort. 26-16 the scoreline was, and I just think that the Melbourne Storm really made a top-notch effort up against the Newcastle Knights anyway. Thanks guys for watching my video, guys. Stay tuned for more. I will be doing a couple of videos coming to you guys soon. Also, I'll be doing more videos coming to you guys soon, so stay tuned for more. Plus, leave a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and for this video, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Till then, take care guys, stay safe, and have a good one. Plus, let's get up to 200 subscribers. We're sitting on 167 anyway. Thank you guys for subscribing to my YouTube channel. Absolutely a pleasure. We need to get up to 200 subscribers, and we're sitting on 167 anyway, but that's the halfway point, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Till then, take care, and have a good one.